As a head coach, when recruiting a highly talented player, you expect them to play at a very high level. In some cases, they do play at this high level and become really good players in the pros. Other times, they don't, and they end up either going undrafted, or they transfer, or they don't have the career that you expected them to when recruiting them. So now let's look at the best recruit for each ACC team and how they played in college, in the pros, and where they are now. To start it off, the best recruit for Boston College was Brian Toll, a 5-star and a 99.2 rated middle linebacker. Brian Toll played a lot during his first 3 seasons at Boston College, but ended up getting hurt going into his senior year. He ended up having to take a medical redshirt year that year and came back strong 2008. Brian Toll finished his career with Boston College with 145 tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and 2 interceptions. He also ran the ball 50 times for 149 yards and 12 touchdowns as more of a fullback. However, the NFL scouts were not impressed and he ended up going undrafted in the 2008 NFL draft. However, he saw an opportunity with the UFL as he was drafted by the Las Vegas Locomotives in the 2009 UFL draft. He later signed with the Jets in 2011 but was released 7 months later. He is currently out of the NFL. Clemson's best recruits come at a 3-way tie between Trevor Lawrence, Brian Bresee, and DJ Uiagalelei, who all received 101 ratings. Trevor Lawrence, a quarterback, started all 3 years and his only loss was to the national championship winner LSU, featured with Joe Burrow. In his career so far, Lawrence has thrown for 9,698 yards, threw for 88 touchdowns to 16 interceptions, and had a 66.5% completion rate. Trevor Lawrence is seen as the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck and is projected to be the #1 pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. Brian Bresee, a defensive tackle, played as a true freshman in 2020. While he didn't get as much playing time, he was able to get 18 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks so far. Bresee is a projected starter in 2021. DJ Uiagalelei, a quarterback, is also a true freshman. When Trevor Lawrence was out with COVID, DJ Uiagalelei took over as the starting quarterback in a limited amount of time. In this season so far, Uiagalelei has thrown for 914 yards, 5 touchdowns to no interceptions, and completed 66.7% of his passes. His only loss was to the number 4 ranked Notre Dame, and he's a projected starter in 2021 when Lawrence goes to the NFL. Duke's best recruit, Vince Ogabase, was a 4-star defensive tackle who received a 94.1 rating. Vince played all 4 years as a defensive lineman for Duke. In his career, he racked up 164 tackles, 36 for loss, 14 sacks, and a pass deflection. Unfortunately, this was not deemed good enough and he went undrafted in the 2010 NFL Draft. However, shortly after, he ended up being Duke's graduate assistant from 2011 to 2012. He then became Ohio State's graduate assistant in 2013 and 2015. He also became the 49ers assistant defensive line coach in 2016 and 2017, then he became UCLA's defensive line coach in 2018 to 2019, and now he is currently Boston College's defensive line coach from 2020 and beyond. Florida State's best recruit comes at a 4-way tie between Ernie Sims, Mario Edwards Jr., Derwin James, and Tommy Jernigan, who all received 5-star ratings and a 100th rating. Ernie Sims, an inside linebacker, played 3 full seasons with Florida State but only 1 as a full-time starter. In his career, Sims racked up 72 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 2 interceptions. Though only he was a full-time starter in 1 season at Florida State, he ended up becoming a first-round pick, 9th overall in the 2006 NFL Draft by the Detroit Lions. He ended up playing an 8-year steady career with the Lions, the Eagles, the Colts, and the Cowboys. In his career, Ernie Sims had 623 tackles, 26 tackles for loss, 14 quarterback hits, 5.5 sacks, an interception, 11 passes deflected, 6 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries. He did sign with the Cardinals in 2014 but never played and ended up retiring from the NFL after the 2014 season. Mario Edwards, a defensive lineman for Florida State, played 3 seasons for Florida State. In his career with the Seminoles, he ended up having 95 tackles, 23 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, an interception, 7 passes deflected, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. This got him to become drafted in the 2nd round, 35th overall by the Oakland Raiders in the 2015 NFL Draft. Mario Edwards played in 6 seasons so far and is still playing today. In his career, he has 109 tackles, 18 tackles for loss, 30 quarterback hits, 14.5 sacks, 3 pass deflections, and 3 forced fumbles. He is currently a backup defensive tackle for the Chicago Bears. Derwin James had an amazing career with Florida State, even though he was injured his sophomore year. In his career with Florida State, Derwin James had 186 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, and a defensive touchdown, with 15 pass deflections, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries, all while only playing 2 seasons. This led him to become drafted by the Los Angeles Chargers in the first round, 17th overall in the 2018 NFL Draft. Derwin James was very good in his rookie year and ended up becoming a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro in that 2018 season. However, he is currently suffering an injury that only led him to 5 games in 2019, and he's still hurt in 2020 and has not played a game this year. So far, Derwin James has 139 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 6 quarterback hits, 3.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, 14 passes deflected, in only 21 games. Timmy Jernigan also had a nice career at Florida State and ended up being a 3-year starter. In his college career, Jernigan had 138 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, a pass deflection, and a fumble recovery. He ended up being drafted in the 2nd round, 48th overall in the 2014 NFL Draft by the Jaguars. In 7 years so far, he has 133 tackles, 29 tackles for loss, 48 quarterback hits, 17.5 sacks, an interception, and 3 passes deflected. He currently made his way to the Denver Broncos in 2020 as a backup, but then got cut later on. Timmy Jernigan is currently a free agent. Georgia Tech's best recruit ever was Calvin Johnson, a 5-star wide receiver who received a 99 rating. Calvin Johnson made his presence immediately felt as he was a 3-year starter with Georgia Tech. He caught 178 passes for 2,927 yards and 28 touchdowns, which is very impressive because Georgia Tech runs a heavy run offense and runs the triple option a lot. Because of his amazing physical attributes, Calvin Johnson was drafted in the 1st round, 2nd overall by the Detroit Lions in the 2007 NFL Draft. He played 9 seasons in the NFL, all with the Detroit Lions, and racked up 731 receptions for 11,619 yards and 83 touchdowns. He also broke the record for most receiving yards in a season in 2012 with 1,964. He earned 6 Pro Bowls and 3 All-Pros as well. He retired in 2015 and is most likely going to be in the Hall of Fame. Louisville's best recruit was Michael Bush, a 5-star athlete who received a 99.4 rating. Bush served as a backup running back in 2003 and 2004 before becoming a starter in 2005. He was supposed to be the starter again in 2006, but unfortunately only played 1 game due to an injury. In his career with Louisville, Michael Bush had 435 rushing attempts for 2,508 yards and 39 touchdowns, while also catching 50 passes for 651 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. Even though he only played 1 game his last year, he ended up getting drafted in the 4th round, 100th overall by the Raiders, in the 2007 NFL Draft. He ended up playing a 7-year career with the Raiders, the Bears, and the Cardinals. He had 809 attempts for 3,250 yards and 29 touchdowns, while also having 104 catches for 1,010 yards and 2 touchdowns. However, he was out of the NFL following 2014. Miami's best recruit was DJ Williams, a 5-star inside linebacker who received a 99.9 rating. DJ Williams played well in his career with Miami, but could not receive his defensive stats. However, while he was a defensive player, he also played a lot on offense, and he ran 18 times for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns, while having 12 catches for 143 yards and a touchdown as well. Williams was drafted in the 1st round, 17th overall by Denver in the 2004 NFL Draft. Williams played 11 years in the NFL with the Broncos and the Bears. In his career, Williams had 899 tackles, 75 tackles for loss, 30 QB hits, 22.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 37 passes defense, 13 forced fumbles, and 7 fumble recoveries. However, he was out of the NFL following 2014. NC State's best recruit was Demario Presley, a 5-star defensive tackle with a 99.4 rating. Presley played 3 seasons as a starter with NC State. In his college career, Presley had 99 tackles, 16.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, pass deflection, and a forced fumble. He was then drafted in the 5th round, 144th overall by the Saints in the 2008 NFL Draft. He played in 2009 with the Saints, but played in 2011 with the Panthers in his only 2 seasons in the NFL. In his NFL career, he had 20 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a pass deflection, but he had no sacks or quarterback hits. Unfortunately, Presley was out of the NFL following 2011. North Carolina's best recruit was Marvin Austin, a 5-star defensive tackle with a 99.7 rating. Austin had a nice 3-year stretch with North Carolina where he was a starter. In his college career, Austin had 106 tackles, 13.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, an interception, a defensive touchdown, 3 passes defense, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. He was then drafted in the second round, 52nd overall, by the New York Giants in the 2011 NFL Draft. However, he only played 3 seasons in the NFL with the Giants, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, and the Broncos. In his NFL career, Austin had 22 tackles, a tackle for loss, but he had no sacks or quarterback hits. He was out of the NFL following 2014. Pitt's best recruit was Dorian Johnson, a 5-star offensive tackle with a 100 rating. Johnson played solid for Pitt and was drafted in the 4th round, 115th overall by the Arizona Cardinals in the 2017 NFL Draft. Even though he was a 4th round pick, Johnson never made the Cardinals and was later cut that same year. He was signed by the Texans practice squad and the Panthers practice squad between 2017 and 2018, but was cut from both teams in a short amount of time. Football wasn't over for Johnson though, because he was drafted by the DC Defenders of the XFL, but was cut in 2020. He most likely will not have another chance at the XFL because they did cancel their season due to COVID. Syracuse's best recruit was Cecil Howard, a 5-star quarterback with a 99.2 rating. During his freshman year, he had feelings of depression and he had overall mental health issues during his time there. This wasn't Syracuse's fault, but Howard decided he needed a change of scenery and decided to transfer to Youngstown State. Unfortunately, I could not get his stats from college and he never played football again once he graduated. Virginia's best recruit was Eugene Monroe, a 5-star offensive tackle with a 99.9 rating. Monroe was very good for Virginia and he was projected as one of the best overall prospects in the upcoming draft. This led Monroe to get drafted in the 1st round, 8th overall by the Jaguars in the 2009 NFL Draft. Although Monroe only played 7 seasons, he started all but 3 games that he appeared in the NFL. In his time in the NFL, Monroe played with the Jaguars and the Ravens. However, once he was a free agent after his tenure with the Ravens, he was not picked up and he was out of the NFL following 2015. Virginia Tech's best recruit was Kevin Jones, a 5-star running back with a 99.9 rating. Jones had a nice 3-year career with Virginia Tech and had 616 attempts for 3,475 yards, 35 touchdowns, and he had 24 receptions for 229 yards. He was then drafted in the 1st round, 30th overall by the Lions in the 2004 NFL Draft. Jones played an alright 5-year career with the Lions and the Bears. Jones ran 795 times for 3,176 yards and 24 touchdowns, while also having 143 catches for 1,011 yards and 3 touchdowns. However, his success didn't reach him another contract because he was out of the NFL in 2008. Wake Forest's best recruit was Laronji Vasson, who was a 4-star cornerback with a 91 rating. Vasson never played it down with Wake Forest, but he ended up transferring to West Georgia. This ended up being a good move for him because he was a 3-year starter there. In his career with West Georgia, Vasson had 173 tackles, 16 pass deflections, and 5 interceptions. After college, Vasson played with the Cobras of the Arena League in December of 2019. However, I could not find any more whereabouts of Vasson, so I'm assuming he's still playing, but I'm honestly unsure. So those were the best recruits for each team in the ACC. Now I am planning on making this a weekly series, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. It was a lot of fun making this video, and I can't wait to make more conferences on this specific topic. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.